Hello everyone. It's been a while, been since January since I've been out in the garage working on the Triumph. My brother Tim is down for this month and we're going to make some progress. So as you can see here, I'm trying to catch the light as it goes across the underneath side of the deck lid. There are some dents that are showing up from the outside going in for the most part. And since this is a single panel trunk, that will be seen on the inside. So we're going to spend a fair amount of time and see if we can't, not 100% metal finish, but see if we can't work those dents out without putting any scratches and grinding marks and hammer marks on the inside. So we'll see how it goes. I'm using a slapping spoon here with a dolly on the backside backing it up, trying to work around the edge of the high spots so that it moves the metal more toward the middle, which shrinks it, which will hopefully pull the metal into a flat condition. Now if I can find all my tools, here I'm taking the curved portion of the dolly and you can almost see the little dent there in the light, and pushing up and then hammering around it, getting the metal to flow over that curved dolly, which stretches it a little bit and raises it up. And that one dent that was in the center just wasn't moving for me. So I'm growing impatient, put a little heat on it, tap it down, then we'll spray a little water on it, shrink that spot a little bit, see if we can't get ahead of the game. Moving around to the front side of it a little bit, there were a lot of, I'm sure they're palm print dents from closing the trunk over the years. See if we can work some of those out, and it looks like I need to get it attached to my table a little bit better. It's a little more challenging doing it in this curve. Trying to use the spoon, it tends to spread out the hammering a little bit. Ideally doesn't leave any marks in the metal. Then I went to this hammer that has a little flat face on it, and we'll give that a try for a while. This is a slow and rather tedious process, but the reward is that I hopefully don't have to put any fill on the inside of the trunk. That is also very hard to sand with the curve going the wrong direction. The sanders just don't fit. So I'm going to try something, a tool that I've seen used here and there, and I've never tried it. It's called a shrinking disc, and to use it I have to get all this epoxy primer off that we had sprayed on that kept the panel protected and not rusting, but it's kind of in the road, so we'll do a little bit of paint removal. And the idea here is to use the magic marker both as a guide coat, and it creates a little bit of lubricant for the shrinking disc, which is effectively just a smooth piece of a metal disc that you rub over the panel, and it generates heat only on the high spots, and then you cool them with a wet rag or some water, and that'll shrink them down and hopefully bring the panel into shape. I said I had never used one before, and I don't think I'm quite got the knack of it yet. I don't think I had my grinder running fast enough. I had the air turned down a little bit, but it did work some, and we keep plugging away with it and see if we can make it work better. And it did do some. I'm sneaking up on it. This was really a pretty good sized dent, about a golf ball sized dent that was in there. And so I'm still kind of playing with it, doing some of the slap file work, more shrink work. I got the divot of the dent out, but it just feels to me as I'm feeling across it that I have a localized high spot where the metal is still stretched, and it's a little bit oil canny. So I'm just trying different things and see if I can get on top of it. And this is real old school. So body file. It's a very coarse file, but it's a relatively fat file, and the handle that I have it in, I can adjust and actually put a little bit of a curve in it to match the curvature of the trunk. And it's kind of showing with the guide coat from the magic marker what I was feeling, in that the center of the dent is gone, but the entire area is still kind of raised. So I'm still working with it, still trying this shrinking disc. Can't give up. I've seen it work, so got to figure out a way to make it work. And using a precision flexible straight edge, I can lay it across the contour of the trunk, and it still shows me that it's a little high. And I've turned up the speed of the grinder and going a little slower. I'm trying to see how much heat I can put into it. I think it's going to be a good tool, but I'm going to have to spend some more time with it. And moving around to the rear face of the trunk, I'm still using this shrinking disc. Getting a little better with it, but as you'll see in a little bit, I'm going to regress back to a tool that I'm more comfortable with. And I found me a different hammer in my box. This one has a different shaped head that seems to fit in that concave surface a lot better than what my flat faced hammer was doing. And it's getting close. I'm getting down to just delicate little hammer hits on it. So we hammer a little bit on the back side and run the shrinking disc on the outside. See if it looks like it's gaining on it. And after using the shrinking disc, and while seeing some improvement, I'm reverting back to one of the oldest tools that I own. This is an air-powered flat file. Normally you have a sandpaper base on it, but I've attached one of those coarse 7/2 per inch flat files. And it's not really removing any metal to mount to anything. But all of those teeth, as they go across the high spots, are like little hammer blows, so that tends to knock it down, and it generates heat also in the panel, just like the shrinking disc. And it's starting to gain on it pretty good this way. And as we scan across here, you can see some of the imperfections, but they are really fairly shallow. I can hardly feel them. And if I was able to tap from the backside, I could pick those up and metal finish all that out, but that would be several more hours worth of work, and I don't see it's going to be needed. I think a heavy coat of primer on the inside and do a little bit of blocking and it's going to come out. So now that the majority of the metal work is done, it's back to more sanding. Sanding down any roughness from the power file, getting fingerprints off of it, any residue from the water that I sprayed, and preparing it to put some filler. And dragging out another tool. I like tools. This is a little sandblaster. It keeps the sand in the bag, and it's got a rubber tip that I can push onto the panel, and so all of the sand really stays self-contained inside of that little blaster. Doesn't spread all over the shop. It does a real good job for spot sandblasting. Gets the little bit of residue that's at the bottom of some of the welds, and if there was any surface rust that had picked up, get all that cleaned out so that all the next surfacing that I put on it has a clean place to go. I'm going to probably end up skim coating most of the trunk. This first coat I put on, I really spend my time pushing it into the metal, making sure that it gets into all the sand scratches that I've put in it, to give it some bite and make sure there's no air bubbles. And it's sort of like a tinning coat if we were soldering. And I'll do this in sections. You'll be removing most of this material back off. It won't be very thick, and it'll be kind of a guide coat that'll show me exactly where the metal's at, so that if I may have to get in there and do a little more metal work, I'll know the spots that need the attention. And as the filler sets up, if you catch it at just the right point, you can use what we call a cheese grater, a little half-round aggressive file that's similar to what you'd use in the kitchen. And I always start when it's a little too soft still yet, because it kicks off pretty quick. You've only got 3, maybe 5 minutes, but probably closer to 3 to 4 minutes that it's in this plastic state that you can do some serious shaping in a hurry. If you miss that time period, then it gets hard and all you got left is sandpaper. That's a lot more work. So this rough shaping it in, I get it smoothed down because I know I'm going to put another coat right over the top of it after I sand this down. It's nowhere near going to be only the one little coat, because like I said, this first coat is mostly for adhesion. We'll get it sanded down, get everything blowed off, and put another coat overlapping this one. I don't normally wear rubber gloves when working on this, but it's so humid today that every time I touch the metal, I could see a spot where it wanting to start to flash rust almost right away. So I got some Harbor Freight gloves, we'll use them. And that's about it for today. This is a couple of days worth of video. We'll get out there tomorrow and see if we can't get this deck lid smoothed up. Once again, thanks for watching.